This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English. Episode number 286, baby. Oh yeah. In today's episode, I talk to Boom Boom Cannon about the greatest sporting event in the world. The World Cup. Because yes, it starts next week, but if you're not a football fan, don't worry, as we do not talk about teams or players or tactics or anything like that. We actually recorded another podcast which will be out next week, which is specifically for football fans. But in today's podcast, we talk about things such as the English national anthem, which is the song they sing at the beginning of the match, has now changed because Queen Elizabeth is no longer with us. So it's not God Save the Queen, it's now God Save the King. And you can get our thoughts on that in the episode. We share memories from previous World Cups and funny stories. Obviously, because this is Rock and Roll English, that's what we do. And one of the stories involves the term top off. Now, if you have your top off, you have no shirt on, okay? You are naked on the top part of your body. Just remember that, okay? I will talk to you all again at the end. Enjoy the episode. Happy listening. Boom Boom Cannon, how are you today?
I'm very well, Martin. How are you?
Very well. This is the third time I've asked you how you are because I said it at the beginning of the call. Then we recorded next week's podcast, which is a bit strange now. I'm getting a bit confused with all this time difference thing, which also happened when you text me about recording. You said to me, let's meet at 5 UK time. But this 1 hour difference between like Europe and the UK, it really is too much for my small brain. This isn't the first time it's happened. I think I just get confused. Is it going forward or backwards sometimes?
Well, I think I said your time rather than UK. And I think that's where, in hindsight, where I went wrong.
Well, that normally helps. But just my brain is too small. It just can't quite grasp the concept of a different time somewhere else.
Yeah, because I specifically put it in your time for your
that reason.
Ease, yeah. And yet you still managed to get confused.
Yeah, and now we're recording a podcast after recording a podcast that's coming out next week. My brain is just fucking all over the place. But anyway, Boom Boom, how do we usually start the show?
Surely with a review.
Oh, yes. Do you think we have a review?
Oh, of course.
And what a review. I'm pretty sure I haven't read this with you, but I have sent this to you, which I only discovered fairly recently.
Okay.
A real beauty. A 5-star iTunes review, always the best. It says, great stuff for English learners. It's from Chase GR91 It. And it says, Martin, brackets, and bum.
B-U-M.
B-U-M.
Wow.
So for people that are not familiar with what bum means in English, it's arse, or if you're familiar with the American term, ass. So this person obviously got boom confused with bum. A name which we could continue if you want, Boom Boom. Bum.
I quite like bum in a way. I don't know. Could be interpreted in different ways, couldn't it? Bum.
It could.
Take it how you want it, I think. But
but that's not just the review though, Martin and bum. It does continue.
Maybe they mean Martin. Maybe they're addressing it to Martin and your bum.
Martin and his
exactly.
bum.
Could be.
Could be. Martin, and he also has a sexy bum, is what it says here. Yep, sure. And hairy bum, sure. So, okay, let's try to get past the first line of this review. Martin and Bum Bum 2 is hilarious. He covers loads of interesting topics whilst incorporating new verbs, adjectives, slang words. Highly recommended. So thank you very much for that, Chase GR91 it. But still, a mention, Boom Boom.
Yeah, solid mention, and maybe a new nickname as well. So,
what more could you ask for? So on to today's pod, Boom Boom, where we are talking about the World Cup. So we've just recorded next week's podcast where it's a detailed look. Now we're just talking about more general, okay, relaxed approach for non-football fans, okay?
I'd say detailed look is maybe a bit misleading for the conversation we just had. There's mainly two men who haven't done their research talking about old football players who they remember.
That's basically what every podcast and rock and roll English is. If we record a podcast about, I don't know, we recorded one about Spain, it's two people that don't know anything about Spain talking about Spain. Okay,
very true.
That's what they all are, Boom Boom. So World Cup starts next week, okay? Are you excited?
I don't think I've got into the sort of excitement sort of space for the World Cup yet. It's the wrong time of year. Still very much in Premier League sort of mode, particularly with the way Arsenal are doing at the moment. So
remember, Boom Boom, this is non-specific. Okay, people don't know who Arsenal are. Okay,
is that too? I've gone too detailed by mentioning Arsenal.
Detailed, yeah.
But no, I haven't really got into the World Cup sort of frame of mind yet.
Yeah, this one of the things actually I was thinking, because obviously this is the very first World Cup to be held in the winter. This is one of my facts. And I thought, especially as an English teacher, is the perfect job for World Cups and football tournaments, because you normally work less in the summer. So you're thinking, brilliant, right, prepared for this. To come in the winter, it's like, did they not think about English teachers that want to watch this World Cup? It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, particularly, it only dawned on me in the last few days that England's first game, for instance, I think is kind of middle of the day kind of time. I can't remember, like 2 or 3 o'clock or thereabouts.
1 p.m. UK time, Boom Boom. So
is it 1 p.m. UK? So 2 p.m. Swedish time.
You do the maths. You do the maths.
We won't rely on you for that.
Yeah. I'll be like, right, yeah. So
yes. +5, -3. Yeah, no, which is just an very awkward time, like Monday afternoon when you're working.
Yeah, true. But at the same time, this is a benefit of working for yourself, so you can arrange your schedule. And I have already arranged to go to the pub with Corporal Coma to watch that match. So we will be going there, having a few non-alcoholic beers, and then go back to work in the afternoon, both of us, I imagine.
Yeah, that's non-alcoholic beers are going to be probably quite important for that. Are you going to stick to that? I can see that kind of going out the window if England score.
Yeah, well, you know me, Boom Boom. I'll probably just neck about 5 pints. So just drink them really quick. Have my shirt off, get in a punch up, start punching someone. That's just a standard day at the pub for me.
I did actually once watch an England game with Corporal Coma where he did actually get quite aggressive towards a Swedish fan.
Wow.
So not in Sweden. He wasn't. We were in London. It was England versus Sweden, and it was the most, because he's quite calm. He's not really one for finding trouble, but he got a bit carried away.
That's just what football can do to you, Boom Boom. But one of the great benefits of things like World Cups is it brings people together. So, for example, me and Corporal Coma now, we've got this. We're going to go to the pub, and you think, right, spend a bit of QT with some friends, hey?
Absolutely.
So that one of the great benefits of football tournaments. But yeah, winter,
not ideal. No.
Yeah. Now there are a few political issues surrounding the World Cup.
Oof. Okay. Wasn't expecting you to go there, but
we're not going there, Boom Boom.
Okay, good.
I'm just mentioning that we're not going there. Okay. Also because, I used to think I'm a really good football fan. I know everything. The problem these days is you need to know about politics as well to be a football fan. and I know bugger all about politics. So it's like my status as a football fan has also decreased now because politics is involved.
Yeah, it's sort of in our day growing up in terms of, say, like club ownership, it was maybe this local person who, I don't know, works in the steel industry.
Boom, boom. We're not like in our 80s here. My granddad, who worked down a mine, is buying Manchester United.
No, I mean like a steel magnate, sort of owns his own company.
Right.
I'm thinking the Jack Walker type. I mean, that's now definitely probably not suitable.
I mean, we said don't get specific, and you're talking about someone that bought Blackburn Rovers in the early 90s. I think even if someone knows a lot about football from another country, they don't know who Jack Walker is.
Good point. But no, the contrast I was going to make is often now it's like nation states essentially who are owning football clubs. So it gets very political. But yeah, I do have there are some serious issues with Qatar, but we can perhaps save them for another discussion.
Another day, yeah. So I read as well, this is the first World Cup in history without Queen Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm. In history? Wow.
In history, because the first World Cup was in 1930. I mean, she wasn't queen then, but she was alive.
She was alive.
And so, yeah, there's another fact for you that you can tell people.
And what sort of impact do you think they'll have on the tactics that the managers deploy?
I'll tell you what impact it will have is singing God Save the King. I mean, this, I suppose, will be the first, big thing that's where people need to sing that. And, I mean, I was never comfortable with God Save the Queen, but, whatever your thoughts on the monarchy, and I know, Boom Boom, you share the same thoughts as I do, but she was a nice person, obviously. She was like your grandmother kind of thing. But Charles, I refuse to call him King Charles. he's just like that, and he's just got an annoying face as well, hasn't he? And to sing God Save the King just makes my stomach feel sick. Makes me
yeah, it feels wrong. I think for some people they wouldn't have realised that even changes, if that makes sense. Because we've had it for so long.
We're singing it wrong.
Yeah.
You made it good.
Yeah.
No, it's King now. It's King. It's King. But get it right next time.
Yeah, I actually think that could happen. It's that is a strange one.
I suppose actually the pronoun has changed as well. So send her Victoria, send him. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I mean, send him Victor, exactly.
Send him Victorious.
It's such a ridiculous national anthem. I think
it is.
I'm actually at the moment just watching. We've been watching The Crown. Do you watch this at all?
I refuse to watch that even for that.
I mean, I am. As you know, I'm. Not. I'm very anti-monarchy. But it's quite an entertaining TV show. And in fact, it actually gives you often more kind of ammo for disliking the monarchy. So it can be quite good in that sense. But in the new series, the actor playing Prince Charles, he's a good-looking guy, natural charisma. Like when you see him on screen, he's sort of, quite like him in a way. And then it's like, yeah, but that's Prince Charles, and it's just not good. It's not good casting, I don't think.
For example, I notice you say Prince Charles as well. It's impossible to say King Charles, isn't it? That's just not happening. Forget it. So if you're listening, Charles, it's just not happening. It's not going to happen. Okay. Not going to happen. So this is the second time a World Cup has been in Asia, the first time in an Arab country. And obviously the first time was in Japan.
And South Korea.
Of course, yeah. And when that happened, I remember having to wake up at 6:30 in the morning. I remember once in particular waking up at 6:30 to watch England against Nigeria. Finished 0-0. So, and obviously at that point, we were 17 coming up 18, and in the summer the last thing you want to be doing is waking up at 6:30 in the morning when you're that age for a 0-0. It was.
I think I must have wiped that game from my memory altogether. I reckon I woke up watched a 0-0, went back to bed, and it's like it never happened because I cannot remember it.
Was that a dream?
Yeah.
Was that the most boring dream I've ever had in my life?
I do often dream about 0-0s, actually. So
some kids dream about scoring the winning goal in a World Cup final. We just dream about England-Nigeria 0-0.
Yeah, a low defensive block. That's what my dreams are made of. Wayward efforts on goal.
But the crazy thing about that World Cup, to give people an idea of the culture in England, was pubs opened at 6:30 in the morning because it's like football. So football, beer, they go hand in hand. And pubs opened at that time. And I'm not sure if it was that match, but certainly one of the matches, I remember my brother going to the pub at like 6:30 in the morning and continued drinking the whole day. And it was one of the few times we actually went out together in the evening, and that was basically why I don't think we ever went out again in the evening, because he was in such a state, obviously since drinking like from 6:30 in the morning, and we went out at about 8 o'clock at night, so that's more than 12 hours.
Wow.
But just the idea of waking up and just immediately having a beer.
That's horrible.
I don't know. Do they do that in other countries? I don't know. But
I don't think that would be as definitely as much of a thing here in Sweden at all.
No.
They far less likely to head to the pub for a football match, even for an evening game, let alone a 6:30 in the morning game. So.
But that's what happens in England. We already mentioned that obviously this is going to be in the winter, and from a personal point of view, this will be the first tournament I've watched in England. I was at home for one match in the 2014 World Cup, but except that, the first World Cup I watched in Italy was 2010. So I haven't watched a tournament in England since, actually 2006. And so of that 2010 World Cup in Italy, I remember I literally just arrived, and so obviously no one really knew me. I kind of like invited myself to go out with some people to watch the match where England lost against Germany. I didn't speak the language, so I tried to keep myself to myself. And in that match, England scored a goal which should have been a goal, which they didn't give. And I just remember going absolutely fucking mental and kicking a plastic chair across this bar.
Good way to make friends.
Probably explains why I didn't make many friends for the next 12 years in Italy.
That guy seems nice. What guy? The guy that just kicked the chair across the bar and isn't really talking to anyone. Yeah. Doesn't speak the language.
But the other problem I had was because it was summer in Italy, really hot, and I kicked this plastic chair. Obviously, I was wearing flip-flops. And even if you kick a plastic chair, it really hurts. And my foot was fucking killing me for like the next week.
Yeah, generally, I think if you're wearing flip-flops, don't kick anything, plastic or otherwise.
It's a good rule. It's a good rule to have. Don't kick anything. But I couldn't help myself. So in this World Cup, I think it's the game against America on a Friday night. And then again, Corporal Comer said to me, do you want to go out and watch that? And I thought the idea of going out in England on a Friday night to watch a World Cup match, I said, absolutely not. Let's watch that one at home.
Yeah, I think particularly your group stage game, actually, I'd say most games anyway, maybe you want a bit of atmosphere as you get later in the tournament, but sitting at home in front of your TV with a few beers is much more my way of doing it these days.
Yeah. Most definitely. And so a tournament, obviously, that actually this wasn't a World Cup. We watched, do you remember in Thailand, 2004, we watched a World Cup. So yeah, if I think of how many World Cups or tournaments I've seen in England as an adult, then the number's actually quite low. The one I do remember for me, which was massive, was the 2002 World Cup, because we were 17 then. So obviously, you just start doing new things like drinking. I was driving, and when we beat Argentina, day, quite rather embarrassingly, thinking back, I remember getting in my car because I'd only recently passed my driving test with Corporal Coma. The Hellraiser, I think, was there, and driving in like the city where we live. And I had no shirt on, and because the shirt I was wearing was an English shirt with 7 Beckham on the back, David Beckham, obviously. And I think the Hellraiser might have had that out the window at this point, and I was driving around without my top on. So,
but presumably he didn't force you to take it off.
I like to tell people now that he did, because thinking back of how embarrassing that is, driving around with no top on, with the top out of the window.
Wow.
I like to tell people he had a gun to my head to make me do that, because I can't think of why.
It was O2, tops off were more of a thing.
Well, speaking of tops off in O2, after one of the matches, I went out, and I remember I had to get some money out. So, and as I went to get some money out, I don't know, maybe you couldn't pay by card in 2002. You had to pay with cash. I don't know. And as I was going, a car hit their horn, and I turned around, and a girl was out of the car and just lifted up her top and just, but in a polite way to say, got her tits out. And I remember turning around just thinking, wow, this is what being an adult is, like going out, like football, World Cup.
Okay, so when you said we're still in World Cup 02, this isn't just another time during 2002.
No, it wasn't England against San Marino in a qualifier.
I think I got quite focused on the top coming off part and sort of forgot the context. We're still talking. This is post-match. England have won, have they?
Yeah, of course.
Did she see you? Sorry, this is such a ridiculous scene now. Did she see you with your top off?
She saw me with my top off and thought, right, well, let's get mine off as well then.
I'm having some of that. That looks good.
I'll have a bit of that. It's a strange thing, Boom Boom. If you take your top off, everyone else starts doing it as well.
Yeah, I might try it.
Okay, so we are going to continue this conversation in the family area. So if you want to listen to all of the episode and the 1,000 extra episodes, that's right, 1,000, go to rockandrollenglish.com, then click Become a Member. So let's have a look at some of that vocab and a little bit of pronunciation just right at the end, where we were talking about the girl who lifted up her top because she saw me with my top off, and Boom Boom said, was that why she did it? And then I said this: I'll have a bit of that. So that is, I will have a bit of that. But notice in connected speech it becomes, I'll have a bit of that. So the H of have, we have lost that. And now because of that, the L in I'll, I will, has now linked to have. So it's I'll have a bit of that. It is also some nice vocabulary to say, yeah, I like that. I think I'm going to do that too. So let's have a look at the vocabulary. Sorry, I do have a bit of a cold. So we were talking about the confusion of the time, and Boom Boom said, in hindsight, I probably should have said something else. So in hindsight, when you look back on something you did or something you said and you think, maybe that wasn't a good idea, you can say, in hindsight, it wasn't such a good idea. And I mentioned how my brain can't grasp the concept of the time difference. So to understand, to grasp. And I said my brain is all over the place. I'm confused. And I mentioned how in the other podcast we have a detailed look at the World Cup. And Boom Boom said maybe detailed is a bit misleading, so not quite true. And he also said he hasn't got in the World Cup frame of mind yet, so like the mental state for the World Cup, let's say. And he also said it only dawned on me in the last few days that the World Cup is starting very soon. So if it only dawns on you, you only just realise. I then mentioned when I watched the first match with Corporal Coma, I'll probably neck 5 pints of beer. So when you neck a pint, you drink it in just one like that, and then get in a punch-up. So a punch-up, a fight. Just to be clear, neither of those things will happen. And Boom Boom said that Corporal Coma got a bit carried away at a match once. So when you get carried away, you get, let's say, overexcited. I mentioned how I know bugger all about politics, so that's a very slang way to say nothing. We mentioned about spending some QT with friends, some quality time, some QT. And Boom Boom mentioned The Crown, the TV programme, and said it gives you more ammo to dislike the monarchy, so more ammo. I mentioned how we were 17 coming up 18 in 2002, so nearly 18. I mentioned how football and beer in England go hand in hand, they go together. I also said when I arrived in Italy I tried to keep myself to myself, so not to talk too much, not to really say much except kick plastic chairs. We spoke about tops off also at the beginning of the show. I also mentioned how I had to get some money out. Notice this is the term when you have to go to the bank machine to get money out. I mentioned how a car was passing by and they hit the horn. So that's what the term is for the car. Hit the horn. And then we finished with I'll have a bit of that. So thanks everyone for listening. I will talk to you all very soon, but in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.